The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
This is Talkin Cowboys.
Streaming live from Dallas Cowboys training camp
In Oxnard, California.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Yeomans.
Welcome to the latest edition of Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. We are live from training camp in Oxnard, California. I am Josh Rodriguez, filling in for one Kyle Yeomans, who will be here next week in tow with Isaiah Stanback. I'm here with Patrik Walker, Thomas Yarrish, and we got Christopher Beamer in the front. He's up there. He's right in front of us.
Not in the back anymore.
He's not in the back. He's up in the front.
Beamer in the front.
All right. Boys, it's lovely to be back in Oxnard, California with some perfect weather. It's nice and cloudy. It's nice and cool.
Yes.
It's primo hoodie and short season. The big boys know what I'm talking about. That's the perfect time for us. We're live, boys.
We are.
Happy to be here. Welcome. How are we feeling? How are you guys acclimating to Oxnard, California?
As always, it's like you said, it's wonderful to be out here, not simply because we get to escape the heat from back home. So love you all. We'll be back home soon. But for now, we're chilling. It's cloudy. It's about 65 degrees, not to rub that in. But I tell you what, it's not chill, which is and we'll get into it, George Pickens' connection with Dak Prescott.
Oh, my goodness.
Chemistry with C.D. Lamb, first practice, which was a walkthrough, looked great. So right now, early in camp, but I'm loving the vibes. The vibes at the moment are immaculate, Tommy, at the moment.
Well, I'm not afraid to rub it in. This weather is incredible. I love this weather. This is unbelievable. I can't believe that I can wear, a polo and shorts, but also sweatpants and a hoodie and be completely fine.
You got the gams out.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, this is great. I'm having a blast with you guys. Excited to be here and filling in as I'm like the JV guy that got moved up to varsity because some guys got injured. So until Isaiah
next man
and Kyle get here, I miss my guys, but
mentality.
happy to be here.
Next man up mentality, boys. And we got headlines. We got things that we got to talk about immediately. The fans have already been watching the shows. They saw you guys on Camping Out earlier this week. Now we have to get to the biggest news that came out of yesterday's first training camp practice. Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs hosted an impromptu media scrum after practice. Lots of heat being exchanged back and forth from executive to player to executive, former player to Twitter. Shouts to J.J. Watt. There's a lot of conversation coming out. The barbs are being thrown. I want to know, what is your perspective on the matter, and what might fans be missing through all of the noise right now?
I'll let Tommy take the lead on this one.
Well, we'll start with Micah Parsons. I think, that's going to be the talk of training camp. It's going to be the talk of the offseason. It has been up to this point. Is Micah Parsons' contract extension, right? I think, the counterpoint to a lot of what Micah Parsons has done is he's under contract. That's what Jerry Jones has said, and he's reiterated several times. He's under contract, and my counter to that would be, okay, but you think about what Micah Parsons said yesterday, where you look at some of the other teams around the league, the Steelers getting T.J. Watt done, the Steelers getting Myles Garrett done, all these guys getting done early, but they still have years left on their contracts.
Well, he says it must be nice in referring to teams taking care of their guys.
Right, and he just wants to be taken care of. And, all this time, Micah Parsons has spoken. Yeah. All this time, Micah Parsons has spoken very highly about Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones has spoken very highly about Micah Parsons. I think the respect is there. I think that, from Micah Parsons' perspective, there is a little bit of disgruntlement in not having something done, because this is a guy who has played very well his first 4 years in the NFL. He's going to be deserving of becoming the highest paid player in the league. But when you look back, and Micah Parsons talked about this yesterday too, at how the Cowboys have done some of these long-term contract deals in the past. We saw it with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. It takes some time. And the number goes up. And I don't think Jerry Jones has any problem with paying Micah Parsons $45 million if that's the number, because he's worth every penny, and he's shown that he's worth every penny. But it's going to take some time, and that part I can understand can be a little bit disgruntling, and I'm trying to remember the word that he used, discouraging, to get a deal done. But ultimately, it might be a little bit of headbutting right now. I think ultimately at some point a deal gets done between the Cowboys and Micah Parsons.
Really quickly, one of the most telling lines, and like this is kind of just drumming up a lot of the drama behind this, but there's sort of a dramatic element to Micah Parsons towards the end of that interview that he did, saying, if this is the end, this is the end. I've got to say this, and honestly, based on a lot of what Jerry said in the press conference, the opening press conference, is that history tends to repeat itself. We've seen this situation in my first 3 years here at camp. We saw it first with Zach Martin. Last year was CeeDee Lamb, and then now we have Micah Parsons. It is a contract situation that continues to kind of rear its head whenever we're trying to get ahead of these things as fans. Let's get ahead. Let's pay him early. The Cowboys just tend to show more often than not they're willing to wait. They're ready for the leaves to fall, which often happens in terms of the Cowboys. But it's a little bit of drama when it comes to, like, if this is the end, this is the end.
So Micah Parsons, welcome to contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys. That's basically what it boils down to. I'm not taking any of these, supposed barbs in either direction to heart whatsoever, because I've lived through and covered so many of these major contract negotiations with the Cowboys. And even recently, you talk about Dak Prescott, multiple franchise tags before that got done. DeMarcus Lawrence, multiple franchise tags, and he ultimately had to weaponize his shoulder surgery in order to get his deal done. CeeDee Lamb holds out to get his deal done. Zach Martin holds out to get a pay increase and a reworking on his deal. Not every deal, and actually rarely will there be a situation where there's a Trayvon Diggs who gets his deal done a little bit early, and some of these other guys, a Terrence Steele or Donovan Wilson or Malik Hooker, those types of players, and particularly when you talk about Trayvon Diggs, who became the highest paid cornerback in the league at the time, or near it, very near it, I should say. The reason he didn't become the highest paid cornerback at the time was because he was willing to take a few concessions. That is within Trayvon Diggs' right and his agent's right to do so. But with Mulugeta and Micah Parsons, if they're not willing to take such concessions, then the deal is going to take a little bit longer to get done, and they are also well within their right to do so.
Absolutely.
It is, in fact, a two-way street. Things can get a little bit contentious when you're talking about a deal of this magnitude with a superstar of this magnitude in an organization that's as visible as the Cowboys are. So for me, this is quite literally par for the course. I hoped that the deal would land before training camp, but I expected that if it didn't, it would get a little bit tweaky right now.
Of course,
and I'm not surprised.
And ultimately, he's still under contract.
Correct.
He's still under contract.
Fully guaranteed $24 million.
And he's here.
Correct.
It's not even holding in. He's still practicing at certain levels. He's talking about his body getting right. His body needs to get right, dealing with the injury from last season. But ultimately, he's here.
He's here, and that leads to a great point that Micah Parsons said yesterday. He was asked straightforward if he's considering a holdout maybe during the season if the deal is not done, and he said, if you think there's anything that can keep me from football, you haven't met me personally. You haven't been around me personally. When he was asked if he's actually holding in, he did say he's dealing with some back tightness. I'm going to put some air quotes around that because, yeah, maybe so.
Possibly.
But he did say that there's a great likelihood that as long as his body responds how he wants it to, that even if the deal is not done at some point in training camp, Micah Parsons plans on taking the practice field. He did some work yesterday with individuals and so forth and so on, and he's working his way back as a ramp-up period. But ultimately, fans should not put much of any emotional stock into what you're seeing, especially when you know that this is how things can get with the Cowboys. I am sitting here, and I am still 100% confident that this deal will get done, and it will get done soon. Is it imminent? No, it is not imminent. But Micah Parsons, and my firm belief, will remain with the Cowboys for the next several years. And once it's done, it'll be much like it was when it got done with CD or DeMarcus Lawrence, which was a very contentious contract negotiation. Tanks was. But once it got done, it was kumbaya. Okay?
Water under the bridge.
The kumbaya is coming. Just let it play itself out.
And it's not happening on our timeline. We wanted this done, in the off season. Obviously, that's not happening now, but they are not on our time. They're working it out. How they work it out, this is how the Cowboys do business, and
It's owning headlines around the world, isn't it?
That's kind of what they do.
All right.
Kind of what they do.
Mission accomplished.
Tommy, why don't you get this deal done, man? Come on.
I don't
Get in
think
there,
I'm not
Tommy.
smart enough to do any of that. So yeah, I'm gonna let the experts handle that.
So Micah also spoke with Trayvon Diggs yesterday. They held a joint scrum, which we talked about right after the first training camp practice. There's been some news around this. Trayvon Diggs, of course, starting on the PUP list this year, physically unable to perform list, recovering from a cartilage issue in the same knee that he tore his ACL in 2023. He chose to rehab away from the team facilities in South Florida because he did not participate in 84.4% of the offseason program. He was docked $500,000 of his 2025 salary. Ouch. If that were, it could not be me.
Stings
guys.
the nostrils.
It does. The Cowboys chose to enact the de-escalator, which they did not have to. However, it was in the contract. He spoke on it yesterday. Jerry spoke about it in our opening presser and said, he didn't deserve it. He wasn't in the team facilities. That was a decision that he made. Can we kind of give some context to that and your feelings on the matter?
My feelings are this. Anyone who has followed me for years, and I said this on Camping Out, knows that I am a huge fan of Trayvon Diggs coming out of Alabama through his first couple of seasons, so forth and so on. You know he's a record-setting cornerback. You know he's a first-team All-Pro. You know all of these things. But it's also true that the contract is the contract. So here's a question, Tommy, Josh. If it's agreed upon that you have to show up to work 5 days a week in order to get your full salary for that week, and you only show up for 2 days, should you get your full salary for that week?
In my opinion, no.
No. Now, it could be at the discretion of the employer.
But you're being mean.
Yeah. No, for me, it's simply holding the player accountable. And when you talk about a Cowboys team that so many, the fans that are watching and so many fans that aren't tuned in just yet, and they'll catch it on the replay, so many times I've sat back and I've seen fans throw barbs at the organization saying, oh, well, this is soft. This isn't the Jimmy Johnson Cowboys. They don't hold anybody accountable. They don't hold anybody's feet to the fire. Here they are holding their franchise cornerbacks' feet to the fire, saying, we expected you to be more in the building more often. We expected you to adhere to the clauses in your contract. You didn't. We could forgive that, but we won't forgive that. This is in the same era as Schottenheimer trying to install a new culture. This feels like a part of Schottenheimer's culture, which is saying, you know what, I'm going to hold every single player accountable regardless of your status with the team or your contract size. This is what fans should want to see. Absolutely. And also it's motivating Trayvon Diggs because what he said yesterday when he asked about the hit, he said, yeah, it hurt my feelings, but I'm hoping to earn it back in incentives. I love it. I love that.
That's a great mentality to have.
That is a great mentality to have, and I think Patrick hit the nail on the head. Jerry Jones said it. He didn't earn it because it wasn't there.
Didn't earn it.
And, Micah Parsons backed his teammate up and said, hey, his body is his property, like it's his livelihood, right?
Absolutely.
So you take care of it however you want to take care of it. And that's not to say that Trayvon Diggs can't go elsewhere in the offseason and train and rehabilitate elsewhere and go to somewhere that he trusts. But at the same time, if you're going through contract negotiations, that's a clause that everybody's going to know about and Trayvon Diggs is going to be reminded about. So if he doesn't adhere to it, then you just don't get it. So I can understand that perspective. And I know that usually in these kinds of situations, most times fans and such tend to side with the player instead of the organization. And that's just natural.
Depending on the player, depending on the team.
Of course, but just naturally that's how it works, right?
Right.
Because, it's fandom for players. And so this is one of the cases where I understand where the Cowboys are coming from. And I think Patrick's right. If you're going to instill a great culture, you have to instill great discipline, too.
Yes.
And so being able to discipline your best players and some of the leaders on your team is a great example of, hey, you can't get away with that.
Nobody's above the law.
Nobody's above the law. You can't get away with this if this is what you're going to do.
All right.
And also I will say this one more thing about
Absolutely.
Trayvon Diggs. And it's to Tommy's point. It's not as if Trayvon Diggs was sitting at home with his feet up playing Call of Duty. Okay, he was quite literally training and rehabbing. He just simply chose to do it elsewhere, which is completely fine. But with that choice came the consequence. And that's all we're talking about here. It's the choice, which was his right, as long as he was doing the work, and he was, because he looks great right now. He's on the PUP list right now, but I expect that he should hit the field in some point during training camp. But the consequence comes with it. That's all we're talking about. Cowboys want to see more from him. Trayvon Diggs wants to show more. maybe the kumbaya moment comes soon.
Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Lobo in the YouTube comments. He just says, I want to see more Cowboys practice. Too much yapping about contracts. Hey, buddy, you're watching Talking Cowboys.
We also have Training Camp Live where you can watch some practice
exactly.
with us later today. It's Patrik and I today. So
I promise you, we will have training camp practice video for you to see on DallasCowboys.com. Let's get to a break. When we come back, we review day 1 of training camp, and I bet you won't guess who got the first pick 6 at camp.
They won't.
You won't guess it. More when we return. Talking Cowboys on DallasCowboys.com.
AT&T has a new guarantee because most things in life are not guaranteed, like getting through self-checkout by yourself.
Warning, each item must be placed in the bagging area.
Not guaranteed.
Place item in the bagging area. Place item in the bagging area.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Welcome back to Talkin' Cowboys. This segment is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys. And I sent Beam a ting that was supposed to be in the drops, but he doesn't have his drop.
Ting.
Ting, ting, for the smile. You know what I'm saying? All right, boys. We had our first official practice of training camp yesterday.
Yes.
Brian Schottenheimer's very first practice as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But
yes.
Guys, first off, what did you get from Schotty's comments before practice, and just tell me about practice overall?
I mean, honestly, I can tell that Schottenheimer is, while he has said all the right things over the course of the offseason, as far as every single time he's been asked a question, it's a home run answer. He's very personable. It's impossible not to buy into him up to this point. We'll see how things play out on the field, absolutely. But you can tell he's ready for the rubber to hit the road. You can tell that.
Yeah.
His
energy's there.
Correct. It's not that he's tired of talking about the culture, but he's ready to show what Schottenheimer culture looks like for the Dallas Cowboys. And you're seeing that as early as the first practice, which was a walkthrough. The vibes, they were immaculate, right? The players, they were running full speed. They were running through the plays, running through the whistles. You know, things got a little bit chippy a time or two.
Hey.
Already. A little bit chippy. But
too.
Early. And that goes to what Schottenheimer was saying. Schottenheimer said that he wants this to be, quote-unquote, a physical-ass camp. So we saw that as early as yesterday, and hopefully we can continue to see it moving forward.
I don't think Brian Schottenheimer wanted it to be as physical as it was yesterday. At some
careful
points.
what you order.
I think there were one too many
dogs?
There were one too many guys on the ground. But no, look, these guys they just want to hit one another, right?
Yes.
They just want to play football, and you understand.
It's the first time they've been able to in a long time.
Exactly, and so, it might have been just first day, just kind of let everything out that's been pent up over the last couple of months, but you still have to keep it to some degree of civility, and remember that these guys are on your team and not the other team, but no.
Poppycock.
Yeah, no.
Play ball.
I don't ask questions anymore.
Phooey with that.
I don't ask questions anymore. One of the things that I took from Shotty beforehand when in his press conference was, I asked him, hey, what have you taken from some of the guys that you've worked with in the past, like Pete Carroll, Mike McCarthy, Dick Vermeil, Steve Spurrier, Steve Spurrier, and what have you kind of picked apart from them when it comes to training camp, and what do you like to mend it all together and make it Brian Schottenheimer's training camp? And he was talking about the 15 to 20 years of notes that he's taken from all those guys, and he's got a collection of them. He's going to give them to his kids and grandkids one day. And this guy has gotten such a good football education from everybody that he's worked with. You mentioned those guys. He worked with Urban Meyer for a year or two, so you get some of the college aspect of it too. I don't know how much of the NFL aspect he wants to take from Urban, but nonetheless, you learn from a lot of guys like that.
Zero.
That have been around the block, that have done this for a long time, and I think that mends very well. Now, obviously, he's got to make it his own. He's got to have his own success. And like you said, Patrik, the culture talk is great. Everything up to this point, he said everything correctly. You can't it's very difficult to not do everything right up to this point. I think the real test for Brian Schottenheimer's culture is going to be when things get tough. What if they lose the first 4 games?
Yes.
That's when you test the culture.
Yep.
That's when you test the culture. And at the end of the day, he's going to be judged by wins and losses, not how good of a culture he's got.
I think time and time again, just in the league in general, when you have a new coach who is just a great soundbite, you often look at those sound bites when a team is performing poorly, and it becomes very memeable. You know what I mean? Like you can often throw barbs at a coach that's like all talk and no play. You don't see the results there. I'm not saying that about Brian Schottenheimer in any way because we haven't seen it yet. We have to see how this plays out.
Absolutely.
You have to see how this team performs, especially for me in the preseason. Yeah. What are the depth players going to do? Because we struggled with a lack of depth last season, obviously due to injury and due to many other contract situations that were happening last year that kind of limited our offseason activities. Now that you have kind of built back up the depth for your roster this season, I want to see how those guys perform even in the preseason. I'm excited more so about this preseason than I've been in many years.
I can agree with that, especially when you talk about the ushering in of a new regime, not only Brian Schottenheimer on the offensive side of the ball and as the executive of the coaching staff, but also Matt Eberflus. He returns to the Dallas Cowboys, this time as the defensive coordinator. And then he brings in some high-level names, Aaron Whitecotton being one of the higher-level names, a heralded defensive mind he was able to poach away from the New York Jets, and that defensive staff at each level. What does this look like? Because you're also looking to replace a guy like Al Harris as a secondary coach, as a defensive backs coach. What does this new ushering in look like? But also, as you're trying to figure that out, your cornerback's position is kind of in dire straits right now. So going to your point, which is something that Schottenheimer told me when I asked him, hey, how do you battle the challenge of finding continuity in a cornerback's room that is without Trayvon Diggs right now? It's without a promising young guy in Josh Butler. It's without rookie third-round pick Savon Revel right now. He's on NFI until further notice. You're missing guys. And then Jordan Lewis, oh, by the way, he's in the Jacksonville Jaguars uniform. Okay? Yep. So you have a lot to figure out there. But that does open the door for these young guys to really step up and show you what they can do, because you can't plan for injuries, but they are inevitable, whomever they might happen to land on. The Cowboys were ravaged by injury, one of the worst and most injured teams last year, and their depth showed that it was mostly non-existent. Absolutely. What does that look like? We're going to find out this year as early as the preseason.
They made those moves, and one of the things, at least for me yesterday, looking back at the first training camp practice, I have to really give a quick shout-out to Kyle Yeomans, who is not here.
KY.
For one, KY is not here, but our fearless leader is back home putting in the work.
Yes, he is.
He was going through Twitter all day yesterday for our first practice and pulling one of my favorite articles from yesterday. It's on DallasCowboys.com. It's called Camp Captures. It's a series where we're pulling cell phone videos from you guys, reports from you guys on the field, and compiling them together for you, the fan, to basically watch practice through our eyes with the impressive journalism of you two. Also, Nicole
Thank
Hutchison.
you, my friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks, man.
You seem qualified to me.
I do feel qualified. You are a gentleman and a scholar.
There's an article there,
and
Camp
you smell
Captures.
great.
Oh, I absolutely do. Your 10 key moments from Tuesday's practice. Can you guys kind of run through the best highlights of yesterday and kind of what you saw on the field?
Well, I thought it was interesting. I think overall the defense probably won the day. I don't think it was the best day for the offense as a whole. Offensively, I thought it was interesting. Saw Dak Prescott, really all the quarterbacks, under center a lot more than I thought they would be. You saw a lot of motion, which is what Brian Schottenheimer said.
Joe Milton under center?
Joe Milton was under center. You saw a lot of Brian Schottenheimer's motion that he's mentioned several times to move things offensively. A lot of play action, which we've talked about plenty of being one of Dak Prescott's strengths. Yes. But you also saw some growing pains with he and George Pickens. There was one rep specifically where he tried to hit George Pickens quick, and they just had a miscommunication. Yep. And as soon as that happened, Dak Prescott, Brian Schottenheimer run up to George Pickens and make sure that they set the record straight. Dak chaps his chest and says, "Hey, that's my bad. That's my bad. We'll clean it up next time." So that's the stuff that you want to get out of the way now at camp and be able to just turn the page on, and you get it out now so you don't have it happen during the season. And then of course a lot of running the football too, a lot of gap scheme stuff. That's what you saw under center. You saw Javonte Williams. How dare you guys
post that on Twitter?
Miles
by the
Sanders.
Way. Concepts.
The audacity.
Jeez.
Jaden Blue had a couple runs. We saw Kevontae Turpin taking snaps at running back too. But really the defense, I thought, won the day. Marshawn Nealon was one of the headliners from there. I thought Maris Leofau had a good practice. I'll let Patrick kind of expand more a little bit on that.
Well, when it comes to Marshawn Nealon, in camping out, Nicole Hutchinson, our beloved Nicole Hutchinson, posed the question, who is your dark horse going into this training camp? And I specifically pointed out Marshawn Nealon. I feel like he's flying under the radar. There are a lot of people rightfully pointing at Sam Williams, and then, of course, Micah Parsons, and then you got Ezraku, who comes in as a second-round pick, so forth and so on. Where does Marshawn Nealon fall in on all of this?
We tease it at the break.
Marshawn Nealon had the first interception of training camp for the Dallas Cowboys. It was on the play, one of the few mistakes that Dak Prescott did make on the day, but he tried to get an outlet pass over to the left. Who was out there in coverage but Marshawn Nealon?
Crazy.
He brings the ball down. He sheds a couple tackles, gets some yardage after the interception. Looked very much like a defensive back, a very large defensive back, but nonetheless, I think Marshawn Nealon is going to surprise a lot of people going into year two. I think he's hearing that he's hearing about these other names and no one's talking about Marshawn Nealon. He's using that as fuel. I think he's going to have, I think I'll stop short of saying a breakout season, but it will definitely be an impact season over what he was as a rookie, which was solid. As far as other observations, excellent point as far as George Pickens and Dak Prescott. For the most part, they were kind of putting on a show yesterday, but they did have that hiccup where they just were not on the same page, which is expected because Pickens just arrived midsummer before the break happened. Like you said, Schottenheimer, Dak, Pickens, they got together. Dak took accountability, said, we'll work that out. Hey, Nicole Hutchinson. And so from there, you look at what CeeDee Lamb's presence was doing for George Pickens. You look at what George Pickens' presence was doing for CeeDee Lamb. Absolutely. I posted a video of the motion, the pre-snap motion that put Lamb and Pickens on the same side, and basically good luck defense. Like, who are you defending there? You don't know. It ended up being a play to Pickens, and then he took it for another 30, 40 yards, right? Absolutely. The connections there. So for me, offensively, that stood out the most. Marshawn Nealon on defense, but then really quickly flipping back to offense, the running backs. Kevontae Turpin, yes, he was taking some handoffs. What really stood out, though, is this battle between Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Okay,
this is interesting.
We saw Deuce Vaughn getting some reps as well. We saw Hunter Lipke getting some reps as well. We saw Jaden Blue, which, by the way, Jaden Blue he eternally looks like he's just one move away from breaking it, from making you not want to go home for Thanksgiving because you're going to hear about how you just got your ankles taken. Phil Maffa was showing physicality, but Javonte Williams took a healthy amount of first-team reps, and in open space, he's going to be a problem. His quickness was evident yesterday. There was one play I'll give to Maris Leofau, though, and I posted the video as well, wherein it was an outlet pass from Dak to Javonte Williams to the left side. It's him in space versus Marist. He goes to put the move on Marist. Without pads on, Javonte wins that. But with pads on, I think Maris Leofau takes his lunch, and I'm looking forward to seeing that one-on-one when pads come on. But Javonte Williams seems to be eking his way into being a front runner, but it's very early, and there's a lot of reps to be taken.
I'll say two quick things. One, going back to Nealon, there was another rep that he had aside from the interception. It was him and Tyler Guyton, and man, he just beat Guyton quick with some great hand movement and just right off the edge and what would have been a sack. Yeah. So I think it wasn't just the interception. He had a good overall day yesterday. That was one of the things. And I might contest you a little bit on Javonte Williams.
Come on.
I don't know I don't know if he looked as quick as I thought he would. Okay. I'm not saying he's a snail, but I don't think it was I don't think you saw some of the explosiveness that
burst.
you've seen. Yeah, the burst that maybe Miles Sanders gives you a little bit more of because he's always been the quicker guy, right? He's always been the faster guy. We talked about that in our training camp preview before we came out here to Oxnard. So I'm not saying he looks stiff, but I think, maybe it's just knocking the rust off, right? This is a guy who's still, he says he's healthy now, but he suffered a major knee injury in his second year that, is something that for a running back in your knee and you've got to make the cuts and stuff like that, sometimes that's hard to kind of rebound from. And you still struggle at points in your career to kind of get that juice back. So I'm not saying there's no juice left to squeeze, but I think, when you look at the two, maybe Miles Sanders has a little bit more juice after this first practice
that would make
that we
sense,
saw.
especially considering Miles Sanders has more NFL stripes under his belt as far as being able to hit training camp running. And I will kind of segue back to what you mentioned about would-be sacks, because guess who had a would-be sack yesterday?
Who's that?
Mozzie Smith.
Ooh.
Okay, so for all of the talk.
He's kind of important, isn't he?
Yeah, kind of important. So I know there's a lot of dialogue online right now based upon what Brian Schottenheimer said about Mozzie Smith being around 300 pounds. Fans would have liked to see, and I admit I am one of those people who wanted to see Mozzie Smith put on weight after the failed experiment with Mike Zimmer. But that's not what the Cowboys are looking for him. Okay, we'll see how this goes this time around under Eberflus, but there was a particular play where Mozzie Smith beat his guy right off the snap on his first step, and it would have been a sack if they were in pads and actually allowed to touch the red shirts. Don't ever touch the red shirts. But nonetheless, Mozzie Smith would have had one, and Dante Fowler, depending on how you look at that particular play, it would have either been him bringing down the quarterback or him absolutely taking the soul of the running back, which on that play would have been Javonte Williams. But that's not a knock to Javonte. That's the fact that as soon as Javonte met Dak Prescott to get the ball, Dante Fowler was right there. He's also coming off of a career season with the Washington Commanders. He's back home in Dallas. Again, this is all fuel for Marshawn Nealon, which is fuel for Dante Fowler, which is fuel for Sam Williams, because all of these guys are going to want to get theirs. But there's only so many reps to go around.
We had an article yesterday that featured Dante Fowler. Check out Pick 6 on DallasCowboys.com. But I was struggling to find a photo of Dante Fowler not completely blurred out of focus because the guy was on fire yesterday. He was sprinting all game long, or all practice long, and to see him, the very stoic picture of Dak, but Dante Fowler is blazing past it. It's insane how much speed that he has, and just to see the effort already at day one, and just to see how that builds, guys. We need to take our second break. When we come back, I've got some big questions for you fine fellas. Are we seriously going to try a running back by committee again? We'll return with more Talkin Cowboys on DallasCowboys.com.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
As America's leading business lender, Bank of America is on your corner and in your corner. With over $9 billion in business loans and more than 140 business specialists right here in North Texas, we help businesses thrive so communities prosper. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com/local business. Bank of America, official bank of FIFA Club World Cup 2025. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
AT&T has a new guarantee because most things in life are not guaranteed. Like getting through self-checkout by yourself.
Warning, each item must be placed in the bagging area.
Not guaranteed.
Place item in the bagging area. Place item in the bagging area.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Welcome back to Talkin Cowboys, live from Oxnard, California, here at Training Camp 2025, presented by American Airlines. Boys, we are in it. We are in the thick of it. It is time. We have another show coming up on Friday, so lots to talk about then. But I want to end this show on a couple of questions that I have for you. Big questions. Big picture. Running back by committee again? Is that what we're doing, guys? Because it didn't work so well last time.
I know he's passionate about this, so I'll let him take it.
And I loved the conversation from camping out. I kind of want to bring it here with a little less tension.
Okay.
Patrick, let's woo-saw. It's all good. All is right in the world. It's beautiful weather. It's nice and cloudy.
I refuse to woo-saw on this topic. I'm not woo-sawing on this topic. If you require a running back by committee, it means you don't have a running back. Is how I look at it. The Cowboys have tried this running back by committee approach, and it did not work. Much like they tried stop me if you've heard this before, the wide receiver by committee approach, which is what led them to release Dez Bryant in years past, and that didn't work either. The by committee approach I'm not a fan of it. I want you to identify your lead back, your 1A, and then you can show me who your 1B is, and then who your change of pace guy is, and then you work off of that. That is what I want to see for the Cowboys. Last year they could have made Rico Dowdle earlier. They could have labeled him the 1A, and they would have had much more success on the ground than they did. It took them too long to come to terms with that. When they finally did come to terms with that, then things started to kind of click on the ground. Now, there's offensive line adjustments that, when you talk about Zach Martin being hurt, and even when he was on the field, he wasn't completely healthy. Offensive line play mattered to that as well. But when you talk about running back by committee, it really makes me itch. It really makes me itch, and the only way to scratch it is to tell me who your lead back is. But we'll find out, hopefully, at some point in training camp.
Well, Shotty said it, too, did he not, in his press conference? It's like, we got to see these guys on the field. This is the first time they're putting pads on together with this O-line. We got to see how it looks on the field. Tommy?
Yeah, well, they need to put pads on, and that'll start next week when they actually get to hit one another. But I'm gonna ask you your own question here, Patrick. Do they have a running back?
Well, they have 4, 5, 6.
All right,
they have 6.
We don't need that.
Yes.
Do they have a guy that you can say, that's our starting running back, and I feel good about it?
I don't know yet.
I don't know either. I'm not convinced they do. Right now, I'm not convinced they do. Somebody's going to have to show me something over these next couple of weeks that says they do. Otherwise, this is going to be a by-committee approach. There's just no way around it. I don't think they have a lead guy that you can be confident in saying, this guy can go and get us 100 yards on the ground a game. Like, that's always been the number. Or this guy can make us feel confident in our run game. It's either going to have to be the offensive line is unbelievable, and they're running the scheme to perfection to open up gaps for whoever's running the ball, or one of these running backs is going to really have to show something over the next couple of weeks, because right now I'm not convinced that they've got a guy on their roster that they can really lean on to be their lead guy.
I think it needs to be a combination of both things. It needs to be the offensive line coming together, gelling as quickly as possible, especially with these younger guys. Tyler Guyton needs to take a big step in year 2, and he understands that. Tyler Booker needs to try to hit the ground running. I saw some good things from Tyler Booker yesterday. Oftentimes he was at the second level on these run plays looking for a meal to eat. So I love that motor. Kind of reminded me a little bit of early, not necessarily, well, maybe some Lyle Collins, but I'll say there's some Ronald Leary in his game. There's some Ronald Leary in Tyler Booker's game, and I hope that manifests itself over the course of this season. But offensive line has to play strong as well. But even if they do, I still want to be able to say that's going to be, air quote, the guy.
And I think at this point, probably the Dallas Cowboys are thinking, we have an offensive line where we can put just about any running back behind them and succeed. But another point to what Tommy's making is that I don't know if we have that guy that's going to take us over the hump right now, especially having a run game that is going to hurt you. It's serviceable now. It was serviceable last year at times when they had, my goodness, not Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle in the backfield last year. So it's kind of still up in the air. What can be answered as far as the running back position this week?
I think the only thing that can be answered this week without pads is what you already know. And what you already know is what each of these running backs, including Hunter Lipke, what they struggle at and you know what they excel at. And they excel in different areas. And there's some crossovers. So like Miles Sanders' ability in the open field kind of cross-pollinates with Jayden Blue's ability in the open field, a little bit of Javonte Williams' ability in the open field. The physicality seems to come from like a Maffa or a Hunter Lipke, but there's not any of these backs that we've seen or that we will see before pads come on that can show you the ability to be physical and be a danger in space and pass pro. And those are the three factors that you would have to encompass if you want to be a lead back for the Cowboys or anyone in the NFL.
I think you're not really going to learn much of anything from the running backs this week at all. You're not going to learn anything until you put the pads on.
We're still going to have question marks.
This week is all about install and making sure that the offensive line's getting the scheme right. The running backs know which gap they're supposed to hit. So I don't put a lot of stock into this early what we see from running backs. Like, yeah, is it good to see them break away a long run? Absolutely. But you know, I don't put as much into it as I do when the pads come on and these guys are allowed to hit one another and bring each other to the ground.
All right, boys. Before we wrap it up, I have one more question for you.
Already?
I need you. Oh yeah, it's almost time, baby. We're moving along here. We're gelling. We're moving. We have one position. I need you to pick one position for me that needs depth still. Right now, today.
That's easy. Corner.
Hey, I'm going. I keep landing on cornerback. I'm going to keep landing on cornerback until further notice.
Well, let me preface cornerback because Shoddy said in the press conference that Deron Bland's going to be playing in different spots. Do we expect him to see him more nickel this year? And does that mean that Kaiir Elam has solidified a starting outside corner spot this early?
I don't think it's anything solidified.
Nothing is solidified. I don't think I don't think we're really gonna know until they get some guys back healthy.
Right.
You know, what if Savon Revel does what he says he wants to do and is here at training camp? And you know, does he play well enough to earn himself a spot on the outside? You know, I think if they have to, they can play Deron Bland in the nickel because Deron Bland has said in the past, hey, I prefer playing on the outside, but if I need to play the nickel spot, then I'll do it. And, you know, I don't think the Cowboys want to take away from his strengths. I think he would be better on the outside. But then again, they don't have many options for a nickel corner spot. So, you know, you kind of just got to deal with the card that's been dealt to you and try to get healthy so that you can move some things around there a little bit. But
well, let me ask this. In your evaluation of Deron Bland, does he fit better in the nickel, or would you rather have him on the outside?
Absolutely.
I would absolutely rather have him outside. He started his career with the Cowboys as a nickelback. He was moved outside because of injury at the position, and that's where he, you know, ultimately became the pick six king. He became the pick six king on the outside. You're not going to. I'm not going to say you're not going to. It's very, very difficult to be a pick six king playing as a nickelback, playing in the slot. You're simply not going to get those types of targets. You'll get targeted, but it's easier for teams to avoid throwing at Deron Bland if they only have to contend with him playing in the slot and not on the boundary against some of their top targets. So I think that works against the Cowboys. I think it will behoove them. It works for them to know that he can, but I would like to see that as a break glass in case of emergency situation. Unfortunately, they are approaching that right now. But, again, to Tommy's point, you don't know what Savon Revel brings to the table quite yet. How long will Trayvon Diggs require to get back to top form after this injury?
And not to mention Josh Butler and Kalen Carson.
And Josh Butler, you're likely not going to see Josh Butler this season because he suffered his torn ACL in December. So if you look at the timeline on that, typically a year for full recovery, then he needs grace. He may be back for the postseason if they can make the playoffs. But Kalen Carson, a lot of pressure is going to be placed on that young man coming off of season-ending shoulder surgery. But Mr. Seatbelt needs to step up, and he knows that, so they're going to lean on him heavily, but they're going to look to lean on him as a boundary guy. But can he get some reps in the slot? Israel Mukuamu, he's on a one-year deal. He's played in the nickel before, but can he do it on a full-time level? They're trying Wanye Thomas, the safety at nickel. They're trying to figure out the nickel equation. I get it, but again, it all goes to your question. Which position needs the most depth or has the most depth issues or questions right now? Hands down, it's cornerback.
And here's the issue if you put Deron Bland in the slot. Offensively, all you need to do is get Deron Bland into the middle of the field, and teams can have a field day outside the hashes with whoever's out there. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles last year, when they were playing at AT&T Stadium, they had a field day throwing the ball downfield, and Jalen Hurts was making throws to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and you know, Kalen Carson. That was a game that he really struggled in, and he lost a lot of confidence from that game. And you know, Andrew Booth is a guy who right now is taking first-team reps at corner, and he's had his fair share of struggles with the Cowboys. So moving DaRon Bland inside, I think ultimately makes you more susceptible.
Susceptible.
I try. Thank you. I can't say it.
It was there.
I tried.
We all knew. You knew what he was saying.
Susceptible.
Don't judge him.
Susceptible. There we go.
There you go.
To getting picked on the outside. And, if you've got your outside corners that you're not as confident in, then it's going to be really tough to defend the deep passing game.
And I'll say this really quickly, going to Dixie Delight's comment in the top chat. And I've said this time and again before his departure. Cowboys fans who did not appreciate the presence and the production and the level of play of Jordan Lewis are unfortunately about to see what it's like to not have Jordan Lewis on your team, to not have that stability of knowing that while the boundaries are being worked out, Trayvon Diggs is injured versus DaRon Bland is injured. They can't get on the field at the same time. You always had the confidence of knowing nickel was on lockdown.
Oh,
well, guess what? Now you're still dealing with injury on the boundaries, and nickel is the antithesis of lockdown. So, unfortunately, the Cowboys are in that situation now. But, you got to find the next Jordan Lewis, and that's not an easy doing. And you might not have him on this roster right now.
You don't. I don't think.
All right, boys. Lots of questions to answer.
Yeah, you're right. You don't.
That'll do it for this edition of Talkin Cowboys. We will be back live and in living color this Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like so long from Talkin Cowboys on DallasCowboys.com. We'll see you Friday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!